This happened to me a few years ago. I used to work at Wendys back in 2018. I was off one day. I was getting out of school and decided to get some food. I went to my work and was just hanging out with my coworkers. I hung out with them and talked because they were not too busy at all, and so we chatted about life and things coworkers talk about. When it was time for me to leave, I said goodbye to everyone and I was walking to my car. Everything was normal until I heard this high-pitched screech sounding coming to the right, and as I looked, I saw two cars slow down. One pulls over and the other stops completely. Then I heard a bang noise. It didn't hit me until the third. It was a gunshot. I had heard gunshots before, but not like these. I felt my heart stop as I made this realization. I couldn't move. As the car sped off, and one of the other occupants of the other car got out, I started to run to my car as fast as I possibly could. My heart was still pounding. I couldn't have just heard that or seen that. Could I have? As I sped out of the parking lot, I heard more shots. I sped off like others, and it was total chaos. Nothing about the law was present then at that moment. Thankfully, a police officer was nearby and heard the shots, and that was that. Later that day, they had found out it was a rivalry between two gangs, which gangs for the area I was in made no sense, or it was very rare for two gangs that were rivals to be this close to one another, especially the distance they would have to go. No one was hurt, including the gang members, but multiple arrests were made. I'm thankful nothing actually happened to anyone, and I'm glad I wasn't directly part of the crossfire. I used to work at Wendys. I worked there for about 4.5 years. I loved the job, the people I worked with, and the job itself was relatively easy. One day, it was really raining outside and thunder here and there with the occasional lightning strike. That's when the power went out. We unplugged everything, and I made a sign for the drive-thru saying we lost power so people would know. Another thing to add is our doors are all electronic based, so when we lose power, we are all stuck inside. That's when we heard a bang come from the bathroom in the front. We all were like, was that another lightning strike? But it could not have been. It was much too quiet for that, but much too quiet for anything out of the norm. None of us built up the courage to go see what it was, so my manager went inside instead to see what the problem actually was. When he came back, however, the expression on his face said it all. It was like he had seen a ghost or something. He just quietly told us to grab anything that could be used as a weapon. That's when we heard the loudest scream from the bathroom I ever heard. My heart was racing a mile a minute. I couldn't catch my breath. That was when, magically, our power came back, and we heard the bathroom door swing open. For a second, we heard nothing but things starting back up in the kitchen. Then we heard him sprinting, and before we knew it, we were face to face with the man, dressed in all black, with a cleaver in his right hand. He charged us, and then my manager had a gun for emergencies only in the office. He grabbed it and shot the man in the arm. The man screamed in pain and agony, and so we called the cops while we had the chance. They arrested him after that and took him to the hospital to deal with his gunshot wound. This would be the last time anything like this ever happened to us. I'm glad no one was hurt other than the man himself. Otherwise, I'm happy it ended. Last year, I was working at my local Wendys part-time, since I was still in high school at this point, and just needed a job to pay for my car really and gas, of course. It was a nice part of town too, so our location was up to date in terms of looks. One day, I was working and a man came into the dining room. He was about 6'4" and had a very well-trimmed beard, and looked to be in his mid-20s. He came up to me and asked if he had seen his friend. He was worried about him. He described his friend to me, and I said I hadn't, and he looked sad, and I could tell that his friend meant something to this guy. After that, I told him I would call the police and report a missing person. The cops showed up a few minutes later, telling the cops what happened. That's when the guy got a call from his friend he was looking for. only when he picked up the phone, it was silent, other than static at the other end. Then it just hung up. A few minutes later, another call from the same friend. Now his heavy breathing with the static. He kept asking where his friend was, but the friend didn't answer. And again, it hung up. The third call, however, would be the worst one. This time, the friend spoke, as if he was hurt, and said he's at the end of the bowling alley in the back. The police and the guy rushed over there, but when they came back, the guy was crying really hard. I knew something bad happened. It would turn out the friend was kidnapped and tortured, and then left to die behind the alleyway. When they arrived, the friend was still alive, but just barely breathing, and the two were reunited before the friend's death. I think it was both a blessing and a curse for that guy to have this experience, and I'll always feel bad for him, but knowing that he was there for his friend in his final moments is truly something special.